Why is it that so many, so often, struggle or fail to convert their dreams into reality? Brian Tracy, in his book, The Power of Self-Confidence, writes, and I quote, "The world will largely accept you at your own estimation. It is yourself that you have to convince before you convince anyone else. But once you're absolutely sure that you have what it takes to master any situation, you will act in such a way that your beliefs will become your reality." End quote. So as Tracy says, the missing link or the bridge between dreams and reality is self-confidence. I see this a lot, especially with the youth. You've got students graduating from universities, looking for jobs for the first time, don't really have a defined skill set, don't really know what they can offer the world. But it's not just them. I'm also looking at mid-career professionals who are looking to reinvent themselves in these fast-changing times. But it's not just them either. It's also the everyday man who's struggling with confidence issues in his personal life. In the world that we live in today, in social media, there are some expectations that obviously put some stress on your personal life. What kind of vacations you're going on and how does your family look, the whole image that we sometimes obsess with, and not being able to live up to that, and how to really build an authentic foundation in your life where you can withstand these kind of changes or expectations that are coming your way. So I think the importance of self-confidence, in my view, I think it's even greater today than it was several decades back. Because I think we are navigating change that's coming fast. There's a lot of noise. And yes, the times are interesting, but they're also scary. So we now need greater self-confidence, self-belief to center ourselves. And like I said, on that solid foundation, figure out a way to move forward the right way. So just to punctuate the importance of self-confidence, I will just share with you an example that Tracy talks about in his book. And he talks about this businessman who lived several decades ago. And he came under severe financial stress. His company saw a fall in sales and profits, and the company was in severe debt. And both creditors and suppliers were breathing down his neck. And this man had to do something fast. He had to make quick decisions. Should he declare bankruptcy? Should he fold the business completely? Should he sell it to somebody else? What's going to happen to all these people who are working for him? Clearly, there's a lot of emotional attachment as well, because this is a company that he's worked for, has actually built for so long, and it's done well for him. But now, it's hard times. What to do? So he was so stressed out that he decided to go for a walk in the nearby park just to clear his head. And as he was walking there, he sat down on a bench, and an old man passed by, and the old man saw that this businessman looked under a lot of stress and looked to be in despair. So the old man, stepped forward and asked him, was everything okay? Does he need anything? The businessman looked up and, for whatever reason, he decided to share his very personal struggle with the old man. Maybe he was feeling vulnerable. Maybe he was so stressed that he needed to talk to someone, anyone, and just offload some of the mental pressure that's been building up for so long. So anyways, he decides to tell the old man that his business was fine, but they've hit a rough patch. And now he doesn't know what to do. If he only had the money, he could, move forward. But, he feels like he's paralyzed. He can't make a decision because there are no good decisions as he sees it right now. So after listening to the businessman with both empathy and very patiently, the old man reached out into his pocket, pulled out a checkbook, and he wrote a check and handed it over to the businessman. And he told him to use the money to get out of the financial problems he's facing. And in 1 year's time, he can meet this old man right here at the same spot at the same time, and he can pay the old man back. No problem. And then the old man walked away. Now that was quite surprising. That doesn't happen every day, right? But there were more surprises waiting. The businessman opened up the check, looked at it. It was for $500,000. That's a big chunk of change even today, leave alone decades back. It's probably more valuable by factors. But this is not where the surprises stop either. The next thing he sees is that it was signed John D. Rockefeller. Now, Rockefeller at that time was the richest man on earth. Imagine getting a check worth tens of millions of dollars, let's say, from the likes of Jeff Bezos or Elon Musk today. That's the equivalent. So now, I mean, the businessman is really like spinning. His mind is spinning. It's like some stranger comes in, gives him a check for so much money, and on top of that, he's the richest man on earth. What's going on in my life, right? So he's confused. He's excited. It really shook him up. But and then he felt very relieved. He said, "Okay, maybe I can just cash this check, and all my financial problems are going to go away." But just then, he thought differently. He decided to go against his first instinct. He said, "No, I'm going to keep this check in a safe as a backup plan instead." Now he felt more secure, more confident, and he had the money. He had the money if he needed to, right? It was a backup now. So he said, "Okay, now I'm motivated to go back and deal with my creditors and suppliers and handle the situation in a more productive, positive, more enthusiastic way." And that's exactly what he did. With this new attitude, this strong positive attitude, and this higher level of self-confidence, he renegotiated his debt with the creditors, he made new extended payment plans with the suppliers, and then he was able to get this financial lifeline that he was really looking for. And so he said, "Okay, now I can think better. I can think clearer. The situation is not as bad as I thought initially." And this, over a period of time, a few months, 3 months, his business was able to come back. If anything, it was more profitable than it was before. So this really, really was a massive turnaround story. So when 1 year had passed, the businessman was excited to go and meet the old man, tell him all about what had happened in the last 12 months, how he turned his business around, how he turned his life around, and the fact that he didn't really need the check after all, even though he was grateful for it. So when the businessman got to the park, he saw the same old man waiting for him apparently. The businessman was so excited, he rushed over to him, and just when he was about to tell him what had happened in the last year, and also give him the check back, a nurse came rushing over as well. And she came over and grabbed the old man's arm. And she apologized to the businessman. He says, "Oh, I hope he wasn't bothering you too much. And I'm so glad I caught him." The businessman looked confused. He's like, "What's going on?" Then she goes on to say, "Well, he keeps escaping from this nursing home nearby and goes around telling people that he is John D. Rockefeller." And just like that, she walked away with the old man. The businessman was left in complete shock. For the last year, he had been doing all these deals and buying and selling things and negotiating with creditors and suppliers calmly, comfortably, productively, only and only because he had the $500,000 backing him up. He had that peace of mind that he could always rely on. But the money was in the safe, and he needed to access it, he could access it. He didn't need it. But the reality was, the money was never there to begin with. It was the belief that was real, not the money. He realized that what had turned his business around, despite the false information, was his belief. And that belief was so strong that it led to this high self-confidence. His self-confidence came alive, which then led him to take certain required actions, which in turn then led him to this final breakthrough. Always remember that to win the world of your greatness, first you must win yourself. It's a cliche, but believe in yourself. And no, you can't magically have high degree of self-belief and self-confidence overnight. It doesn't work that way. If you do suffer from a lack of self-confidence, first you build trust with yourself doing the small things over and over again, like developing healthy habits, developing daily discipline that serves you and your environment. Now, this is in your control, so no excuses. Then when you start respecting yourself more, trusting yourself more, bit by bit, you start putting up yourself out there into the world. Put yourself out there in the world, okay? Take on a chore or a job and do it to the best of your ability and on time. You will start gaining exponentially more self-respect and exponentially more self-confidence. Take on progressively greater challenges in life and in work. And it's just that simple, and it's just that hard. Over time, you will develop a belief that you can do anything you put your mind to, because now you know what it takes to turn dreams into realities. No matter how small or vast your dreams are, you now know the blueprint to accomplishing anything. And here, I'm especially talking to the 40-plus crowd. This is all those people who are struggling in today's age, in this new economy. I realize it's tough. There's a lot of change happening, like I said earlier. But we need to redefine ourselves. Don't fight this change. Be part of this change. Learn new skills. Become relevant. You know, the world is changing. Let's not just be comfortable with the college degree we got 20 years ago. Evolve with the times. Yes, it will take intentional effort, and it's going to take time. It's going to take money as well. But really, the missing link for most people is not that they don't work hard, or they don't spend enough money, or they don't, give up enough time. But it's the fact they just don't have the right self-confidence. The self-confidence that drives the right actions. And as Robert Kiyosaki says, confidence comes from discipline and training. So my only question for you now is, are you ready?